The wind howled across the barren plains of Montana as the evening sun began to sink behind the golden hills, setting the world on fire with streaks of crimson and amber. The old ranch stood like a forgotten ghost at the edge of nowhere, its wooden beams creaking under the weight of time. Inside, the air was thick, not just with dust, but with the kind of silence that screamed louder than thunder. Emily stood by the window, her trembling hands clutching the edge of the curtain as she stared out toward the dirt road that cut through the valley. She had been waiting for hours, maybe days. She couldn't tell anymore. Her heart ached from the kind of fear that doesn't just live in your chest, but crawls into your bones. Then she saw him, the rancher, tall, broad-shouldered, hat pulled low over eyes that didn't show mercy or emotion. His horse's hooves echoed through the emptiness, each step a countdown to something she didn't want to face. He dismounted slowly, brushing the dust from his coat, and looked straight at her through the cracked glass. For a moment, she thought she saw something, regret, perhaps, but it was gone before she could be sure. She stepped back as he pushed the door open. The hinges wailed like something alive. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, voice barely more than breath. He didn't answer. He just stood there, framed in the dying light, shadows clawing up his boots and the worn edges of his jacket. His silence was heavier than words. She turned away, clutching the edge of the old wooden table, her knuckles white. "If you're here for what I think you are," her voice cracked, "then please, just make it quick." But the rancher, Jacob, didn't move. He looked around the small, broken-down house, the cracked photographs on the wall, the wilted flowers on the table, the single candle burning low, and then back at her. "You think I came to end this?" His voice was rough, gravelly, but soft in a way that almost broke her. "No, Emily, I came to end what they started." She froze. The words hit harder than a bullet. She whispered. He nodded, walking closer until she could smell the faint scent of leather and whiskey. "You've been lied to," he said, his voice low. "You think I did it. You think I burned the barn. You think I killed him. But I didn't." Her heart stopped for a second, her mind spinning. "Then who?" she asked. Jacob's jaw tightened. "Your brother," he said. "It was your brother, Emily. He did it to cover the debt. I tried to stop him, God knows. I tried, but he wouldn't listen." The world around her seemed to tilt. She stumbled back, her breath coming in short gasps. "No," she said. "No, you're lying." "He wouldn't. He would," Jacob interrupted, eyes burning with pain. "He already did." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver locket, tarnished, cracked, the same one Emily had given her brother years ago. Her hands shook as she took it, staring at the initials carved on the back. Her hands shook as she opened the drawer where her brother's letters were hidden. Torn edges, ink stains, lies wrapped in paper. She read each one until the words blurred into madness. He had been lying to her for years. Every deal, every promise, every late-night trip to town, all of it had been part of something darker. And Jacob had known. He hadn't killed her brother. He'd tried to stop him. That truth burned like fire in her chest. She felt anger rise like the storm outside. The ranch wasn't just a home anymore. It was a graveyard of sins, and she was done being the quiet ghost inside it. By morning, the rain had softened, turning the world gray and heavy. Emily saddled her father's old horse, its mane slick with mist, and rode toward the canyon road. She didn't know exactly where she was going, only that the trail led to town, and town led to answers. Jacob's words played in her head. Don't trust anyone. She didn't plan to. As she approached the edge of the ridge, she saw smoke in the distance, not from chimneys, but from a campfire hidden near the creek. She slowed her horse, heart pounding. Someone was there. She dismounted quietly, crept through the brush, and then froze. Jacob, sitting by the fire, hat off, eyes closed, a pistol beside him. For a moment, she didn't know whether to cry or scream. He looked older, more broken than she remembered. The kind of man who'd been carrying too much for too long. "You came," he said without looking up. She swallowed hard. "You left me with ghosts," she whispered. He opened his eyes, slow and calm. "And yet here you are, chasing one." She stepped closer. "You said they'd come for me. Who are they?" He stared into the flames. "Your brother wasn't working alone," he said. "He owed money to men you don't want to meet. They own half the valley, the mines, the freight lines, even the sheriff. They've been bleeding this and dry for years. I tried to stop it. That's why they burned the barn. Why they killed your father." Emily's breath caught. "My father?" she whispered. Jacob nodded, pain shadowing his face. "He found out what your brother was doing. They made it look like an accident." Her heart shattered. For years she'd believed her father's death was an accident, a fall from the ridge during a storm. But now she could see it, the lies, the silence, the blood that had been washed away by rain. "Then why didn't you tell me?" she asked, tears cutting through her voice. "Because you would have gone after them," he said quietly. "And they would have killed you too." She stared at him, trembling, caught between rage and sorrow. "And what about now?" she asked. "You think I'm just going to run again?" Jacob looked up at her, the firelight reflecting in his tired eyes. "No," he said. "Now I think you're ready." He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a small leather pouch, tossing it toward her. She opened it and gasped. Inside were documents, deeds, maps, ledgers, proof of everything. Her brother's signatures, the names of men in town, the money trails. It was enough to destroy them all. "Why give this to me?" she asked. "Because they already know about me," he said. "They've been hunting me for weeks. But you, they won't see you coming." Suddenly, a gunshot split the air. The fire cracked, the horse neighed, and Jacob threw her to the ground just as another shot rang out. The trees exploded with noise, boots, voices, gunfire. "Go!" Jacob shouted, grabbing his revolver and firing into the darkness. She tried to pull him with her, but he pushed her away. "Emily, go!" he roared. She hesitated for half a second, just long enough to see him fall. A bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him back against the rocks. She screamed his name, but he fired again, blood pouring down his arm. "Ride to the sheriff's office," he yelled. "Show them the papers." "I can't leave you," she cried. "You can and you will," he growled, eyes fierce even through the pain. She mounted her horse and rode like the wind, tears blinding her. The valley stretched before her like a battlefield. Behind her, she could still hear the gunfire echoing through the hills. She didn't stop until she reached town. The streets were quiet, empty, too quiet. The sheriff's office stood at the end of the road, lanterns flickering inside. She burst through the door, throwing the papers on the desk. "It's all here," she cried. "Everything, the debts, the murders, the names." The sheriff looked up slowly, eyes cold, smile thin. "I know," he said. "We've been waiting for you." Her heart dropped. Men stepped out from the shadows, the same ones Jacob had warned her about. The sheriff picked up the papers and tossed them into the fire. "You shouldn't have come, Miss Lane," he said. "You should have just let the past die." Before she could move, they grabbed her. She fought, screamed, kicked, but they pinned her to the floor. "Where's Jacob?" the sheriff asked, voice dripping with venom. "Dead," she spat at him, blood on her lip. "You'll never find him." The sheriff chuckled. "We already did." He tossed something onto the floor. Jacob's hat, torn, burned, her soul shattered. "You monsters," she whispered. "You'll pay for this." But as the sheriff raised his gun, the door exploded open with a thunderous crack. A figure stood in the smoke, bleeding, battered, but alive. "Jacob," he fired without hesitation. The sheriff fell. The other men scattered. Chaos erupted. Emily scrambled free, grabbed the rifle from the wall, and fired back. The room became a blur of smoke and gunfire. When it was over, the sheriff's men were down. The papers were ash, and Jacob lay slumped against the doorframe, gasping for breath. She ran to him, catching his head in her hands. "You did the unthinkable," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. He smiled faintly. "I told you, I'd end what they started." She pressed her hand to his wound, but the blood wouldn't stop. "Stay with me," she begged. "We can leave, start over." He shook his head weakly. "There's nothing left for me, Emily, but you. You have the truth now. Make it count." His hand trembled as he reached up and touched her cheek. "Promise me." She nodded, sobbing. "I promise." His eyes softened. "Good," he whispered. "Then make it quick." She didn't understand, until his hand slipped from hers, and his body went still. The morning light broke through the clouds hours later, falling on the wrecked office, the blood, the smoke. Emily buried Jacob on the hill overlooking the ranch, the wind whispering through the grass like a lullaby. She stood there for a long time, the locket around her neck, the promise heavy in her heart. Then she turned, mounted her horse, and rode toward the horizon. She wasn't running anymore. She was riding toward justice, toward vengeance, toward the legacy Jacob had left behind. Because the unthinkable thing the rancher had done wasn't killing, or saving or dying. It was something far greater. He had given up his own redemption so she could find hers. Tears welled in her eyes as the truth ripped through her. "Why are you telling me this now?" she whispered. Jacob looked away, his throat tight. "Because I'm leaving," he said. "And before I go, I wanted you to know I never stopped caring about you. Even after everything." She stepped closer, anger and heartbreak twisting inside her. "You think that makes it better?" she snapped. "You disappear for years, come back with ghosts and guilt, and expect me to just what? Forgive you?" Jacob didn't flinch. "No," he said quietly. "I expect you to survive." His words hung in the air, sharp and final. Then thunder rolled across the horizon, and rain began to fall, slow at first, then heavy, soaking the dry earth, washing away the dust and blood that had long stained it. Emily turned to the window again, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. "Where will you go?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jacob put his hat back on, his eyes dark under the brim. "Doesn't matter," he said. "There's no place left for men like me." He turned toward the door, but before he stepped out, he stopped. "Emily," he said, without looking back, "they'll come for you next. They think you know where the money is. Don't trust anyone." And then he was gone. The door swung shut behind him, the storm swallowing his figure into the night. Emily stood there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway, her heart a battlefield of memories and truth. Outside, lightning split the sky, and somewhere in the distance, a single gunshot echoed. She flinched. The ranch had always been cruel. It took what it wanted and left nothing behind. But tonight, it felt like it had taken everything. She sank to the floor, clutching the locket to her chest, whispering his name through broken sobs. For the first time, she didn't know whether she was crying for the man she lost or the man she'd just discovered he truly was. But deep down, beneath the pain and fear, a spark flickered, a spark of something Jacob had left behind. Not love, not forgiveness, but purpose. The truth had been buried, and now it was her turn to unearth it. She stood slowly, wiping the tears from her face, and stared at the rain-soaked fields beyond the window. The past had come knocking, but she wouldn't run this time. She would fight, because if Jacob was right, her brother wasn't done yet, and the storm outside was only the beginning of what was coming. The storm hadn't stopped for 3 days. The ranch was a drowned skeleton under the cold fury of the skies, and Emily hadn't slept once. Every creak of the wooden floor, every moan of the wind against the shutters, sounded like Jacob's voice echoing through the walls, warning her, haunting her. She hadn't seen him since that night, the night he walked out into the rain and vanished into the dark, but she could still feel him everywhere, in the scent of whiskey that lingered on the table, in the muddy footprints by the door, in the half-burned candle that refused to die out.